Hey, this is Antonio. Welcome back to my channel. I was ready for some fighting words. In this video, I want to talk about Tank and I want to talk about Devin Haney and the supposed sparring. The supposed punch that almost took Devin Haney out of the sparring, shall I say. Really quick, if you like the videos, I ask that you please subscribe to the channel. You can do that right now. More than welcome to. Also, if you could, hit that thumbs up button, like the video, and please circulate these videos, get the name out there, get fighting words out there. I'd like to do a whole lot more. Unfortunately, I need more of you to do more of what I'd like to do. But let's jump back into this. So apparently, not apparently. So yes, they sparred. Okay, that's cool. Nothing wrong with that. However, it was Adrien Broner who said that he jumped in the ring and, he stopped it or whatever the case may be. And so let's start with who's giving the story. It's Adrien Broner, the guy who brought Tank into the game, or to Floyd Mayweather. A guy who says he's Tank's big brother. A guy who, has had Tank with him since day one. I'm not saying he's lying. I'm just saying that it would make sense for him to side with Gervonta Tank Davis. It would make sense. So when I hear his story, I take it with a grain of salt. If there was somebody else, somebody like just a regular spectator, I'd be like, okay, that's one thing. And it's funny because Floyd Mayweather Sr. has been very vocal in saying, or especially in the past, that Devin Haney would smoke Adrien Broner, the guy who brought Tank into the game, Tank's big brother. And Devin Haney said he would smoke Adrien Broner. And I'm talking about young teenage Devin Haney saying that he would smoke Adrien Broner. So that's one thing. When we get the story, we're hearing it from somebody who's very closely associated with Gervonta Tank Davis. Then the second thing to that would be, well, it was years ago, but Devin Haney was a kid. Devin Haney was like 17 years old. He was a kid. Like, he was a child. He was a minor. So I don't necessarily know about beating up kids that doesn't sound cool to me. Like, Tank was at least in his 20s when they sparred. That didn't sound cool to me. That, all right, you beat a teenage Devin Haney. Congratulations. You want a cookie for that? That's nothing to brag about. Unless that child is some type of phenom, that's nothing to, and there have been child prodigies and phenoms, in boxing especially. Floyd Mayweather was a phenom. Mike Tyson was a phenom. They're phenoms, yeah. Muhammad Ali was a phenom. But Devin Haney wasn't a phenom. He was just some hardworking kid who bounced from gym to gym, soaking up everything that was taught to him, sponging it all up. He wasn't a phenom. He's not a phenom now. He's an undisputed world champion, but he's not a phenom. So your whole basis of you beating Devin from Tank now, your whole basis of you beating Devin Haney today is because you beat him when he was a minor, when he was a child, when he was a kid, when he didn't have half the experience he has now. That's what you're basing this on? He wasn't even old enough to drink. He wasn't 18. That's what you're basing this on? I'm assuming you didn't even go to prom yet. That's what you're basing this on? Because you cracked and that's if that infamous punch that Adrien Broner said happened, or that he hit him so hard that he was dazed and out of this world and Tank was about to take him out of his misery. And I don't doubt that it could happen. I believe Tank, especially at those lower weights, could more than crack. But especially when you're fighting somebody who isn't fully developed physically, like a 17-year-old, I imagine he could really crack a 17-year-old. But I don't know. That story, I just want that story validated by maybe somebody other than Adrien Broner, to be honest with you. Somebody's extremely loyal to Tank, you know, to the point where they call each other brothers. So I don't necessarily know if I'm accepting that story. And also, again, let's just say it did happen. You cracked a 17-year-old. A 17-year-old who didn't even have any professional fights. A 17-year-old. That's nothing to brag about. That is nothing to brag about. I'm sorry. That's nothing to brag about. Devin Haney has grown leaps and bounds since then. He's now an undisputed champion. He's beaten champions. Sorry. I'm sorry. That's nothing to brag about. That's just, to me, that doesn't say a whole lot. You know, and again, there are days where people show up to sparring, and there are days when they don't show up. It happens. It's happened to me more than once. One day I show up to sparring, and one day I left my warrior self at home, and I wasn't at sparring, or I wasn't mentally there, and I got cracked. It happens. It happens. Nobody's invincible. It happens. Floyd Mayweather admitted that, you know, when he sparred Earl Spence was a lot better than he thought he was, and he got cracked. It happens, and it happens to the best of everybody. I don't care who you are. If you get in that ring at some point in your life, you will get cracked. But an older fighter with more experience and an adult fighting a child with less experience, it's nothing to brag about. Not in my books. Now, that being said, we already covered Adrien Broner being Tank's friend and brother. And we've already covered, you know, it's just sparring. But we've also covered he was a minor. He was 17. Okay? Now let's just cover, all right, what would happen today? Now, this video is not to say that Tank can't beat Devin Haney. I've been very vocal on the fact that I think Tank can beat Devin Haney. But I don't think it would be half as easy as he thinks it would be. Devin Haney is I don't know, I'm not going to call him the most durable guy, but he does have a lot of skills. And whatever he had in his teenage fighting, you know, sparring or whatever, he ain't that now. He has skills. He's just as fast as Tank, more than likely. They're about the same speed. He has a good skill setting. He has a great jab. Devin Haney has a great jab. Devin Haney can go to the body. Devin Haney has really fast feet. Devin Haney can fight either side. He can do orthodox or he can do southpaw. You know, he stays pretty controlled and pretty disciplined, but he can do both. Devin Haney can throw combinations. Is Devin Haney a finisher? No. And I think most people who would look at these two, they would bank everything on the fact that he's not a finisher. And typically when you have a guy who's not a finisher fighting a finisher, you would say, well, I'm going to put my money on the finisher because he's a finisher. I don't think that's the best argument, but I don't think it's the worst I've heard as well. But I don't think it's the best argument. I do think Tank is very explosive. Devin's fast, but Tank is explosive. Tank has something that a lot of fighters in more experience, I do think it takes a bit of courage to do this as well. Tank is okay with patiently waiting. He's okay with patiently waiting. And what I mean by that is he doesn't have to get you this round. He don't have to get you the next round. He knows if it's the right spot, if it's the right punch, it was worth waiting for. And he can afford to wait for it. Kind of like a Deontay Wilder. Wilder said it best. I only have to be perfect for 1 second, a few seconds. That's it. That's it. I can put him out, and Tank is the same way. He can put him out. And I think that takes a lot of skill. I think that takes a lot. And let me break that down for you when I say that patiently waiting takes skill. because it means you have to set somebody up. It means you have to get them in a certain spot in the ring. It means you have to put them in the right position. It means you have to expose the right spot on the body for you to attack. And how do you do that? You lure them in. How do you do that? You make them focus on other parts or defending other parts of the body, not being the part that you want to attack. And then you wait. Because in the meantime, you have to endure. In the meantime, you have to duck and dodge. In the meantime, you have to zero in while ducking and dodging and keeping your eye on that target. There's only a small window. There's only a small window, and guys like Deontay Wilder and Gervonta Tank Davis can do that. They can do that. I don't necessarily think Tank would go up in a ring with Devin and just try to walk him down. It would be more like the Rolly fight all over again. I do think he would have a lot more spots than he had with Rolly because Rolly's so big. Devin Haney isn't the biggest guy in the world, so Tank wouldn't have to be as elusive. But I think in his getting older and maturing in the ring, Tank is realizing, I got 12 rounds. I don't need to rush this thing. I got 12 rounds. I don't need to rush this thing. Also, nowadays we are seeing a conditioned Tank, and that's scary in itself. A dedicated to his craft, Gervonta Tank Davis. This video is not to say that I think Tank cannot beat Devin Haney, because I've always said Tank will beat Devin Haney. My issue was everybody's putting so much emphasis on this sparring, and that Devin Haney got cracked while sparring Tank. A child got cracked while sparring a grown man. That's really what it is. When you break this down, a grown man sparred a child and got cracked by a grown man. That's in a nutshell, that's what happened. And if it happened, because the story comes from a very close source in friendship with one of the fighters, Gervonta Tank Davis, and that person being Adrien Broner. So I'm not saying the story's false, but I'm saying who cares if it's true, more likely, or more than less. That's basically what I'm getting at. Who cares if it's true? Let's see what happens today. I don't think it's an easy cakewalk in the park for Tank today. Do I think he still wins? Yes, I do. I just don't think it's a cakewalk. I just don't think it's a cakewalk. But those are my thoughts. What do you think about this infamous sparring and this infamous hard punch that was thrown that pretty much was about to end Devin Haney's career, according to Adrien Broner? Do you think it's true? And like I said, do you think it matters? I personally don't think so. Drop your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And as always, please like, please share, please subscribe to the channel.